Should we just film your feet and your hands for this question and answer?
Yeah, which one? Actually, I prefer the right one. I wish we could have had access to the final mix. I think it's a bit trying to get through all of it and in its original, what I consider beauty, but I hope you got something out of it anyway. So.
I think you get like the landscape of John Cale's face, and you can kind of see him reacting to the musicians, and there's a lot to read, I think, from his face and his eyes throughout the movie.
Yeah, he has a Greek. He doesn't look Greek, but he has. When I think of Greek, I think of some noble, and also troubled, and also deep, and also accepting the fact that we played that trick on him up at the castle to play him those comments from people that felt he was washed up. But that's how he is. I mean, he is not about how good he is or how great he is. He's about what would be the next iteration here, and that makes sense. Yeah, I don't think I need to have to be this or that, but. And he walks away. So I think he has a greatness inside of him that we've stayed in touch all these years, and he was also in my movie Love Twice. He plays what does he play? He's a drug dealer, I think. But so I've come to admire him immensely, and I like the movie even better now than when we made it. With the various aspects of difficulty notwithstanding, but from time to time I was really moved by what he was willing to do, and I love Brian too, because Brian stuck with his guns, and I know exactly. I can't play the trumpet in front of anybody. I get in my car and I drive out to the Berkeley Pier. I play every day. I play half an hour. So I know exactly how Brian felt about being filmed when he's doing what requires everything from him. Anyway.
Seeing the movie now, do you think Brian was afraid of how you would edit the film, or was he just so self-conscious he found it distracting to have the camera?
I think both. I mean, at the end he said he didn't see how it would be interesting to anybody. He stayed true to himself. He didn't want me there, didn't want us there. Who knows exactly how that worked. I think probably, John was a bit of a trickster in those days, and he might not have kind of made it clear. But so what? To me, it makes it much more interesting, the various things you have to fight against to make art anyway. Internally, externally, it's a struggle, and of course, as John makes it clear too. You can never quite get it. Can't quite get there. And then maybe you can get there, but you don't know if you had gotten there, so to speak. It's not an easy, but it's like anything else. It's worth trying. You just give everything to it.
Somebody mentions, I think it's John Cale's wife, about how he became less self-destructive.
Yes, yeah. Do many of you know, or do all of you know, his antics, destroying things on stage and all that kind of thing? Same kind of Jimi Hendrix, that type of thing. Are you aware of all of that? How many of you were aware? Just like to see hands. Yeah, so some of you were aware of his reputation. And of course, the Velvet Underground, I'm sure many of you knew that. And then in the middle, he would dress in these space suits and kind of go berserk and burn things and things. And why not? That's what he wanted to do, and that's what he did. And he's a very thoughtful person politically these days. He sends me just yesterday, he sent me an article about how we're putting drones up in northern Norway to protect our interests, along with the Norwegians, our interests against Russia. And I'm thinking, yeah, these are my people, and now we're trying to protect the Arctic with drones. Oh, what a great idea. And, but John's thoughts and the way that he operates is completely unique. And I think he has a deep kind of moral, it sounds a little Norwegian, I know, but kind of a moral compass, if that means anything.
As an artist yourself, how did you avoid the self-destructive kind of masculine path that so many of the great artists have gone down in history?
Wow. Did I?
I don't know. I can speak on that.
Well, one thing I did was I made Eaten Sunlight, and I made myself be the lead actor in it. It's about jealousy. It's about the destructive power of the what would you say, the depths and the heights and the width of the notion of love conceals also violence. And if it's not realized in the way that ideally you want it to be realized, then you go crazy. And I did that. So maybe I did it in the film, so I didn't have to do it in life. But luckily it was all filmed. And not exactly done in real life. I don't know. No, I feel that it is absolutely essential to keep on with the next step. And John was filming me here. John and I have our work. There's a biopic that John is directing that we're doing together, 4-hour-long version of what I've done up to now. But for those of you who are delicate, you can look at it in 2 different sections. And so there's more than that too. There's in the book, there's in the poems, there's all that stuff. If you once get that bite, it just clutches at you. You realize you have to survive in order to satisfy it.
I think it's Martin Scorsese. He said, like, once you start making films and become a filmmaker, it's like an addiction. You know, you get behind the camera, you're giving people directions, you know, you're the boss, or maybe even a dictator sometimes, depending on the director's style. How has that evolved for you over your career?
It's a fixation, but it's not an addiction, and I don't want to be the director anyway. I want to be the occasion for others, for the brilliance of others, and to allow, not to tell, not to instruct. There's almost nothing you can tell anybody anyway, because the way we're constructed, it all works out in a very personal way, and I believe in those personal ways. And I want to be there, as I said. That's what I want to. I want to bring down the lightning, not for me, that it gets spread out in the body politic of our group, and that everybody can relax into it. Go slow enough so that your rage can mean something. Go slow enough so that your despair can mean something, and go slow enough so your slow can be slow, and then you can go fast once you know that you're being valued, and you know that almost anything is permissible in our direct action method, except clowning and pretending to be something. I don't want to, unless that's the role. Of course, if that's the role, then you do it. But no, it's a process of self-discovery that I want to be part of, and that's as far as it goes.
With you kind of started with poetry in terms of your artistic journey. In the movie, Dylan Thomas is definitely an inspiration to John Cale's songwriting and music. Can you speak about poetry? Does it still have a force in your life these days?
I just started to write a long letter to Walt Whitman as a form of poetry, because Walt Whitman is where I started. I don't want to try to bowdlerize anything by trying to describe what he did. But I'm trying to see if I can still, after all these movies, which have sort of taken the place of poetry, you know, I have a book, it's about 270, 90 pages of my poetry and stuff, and I know when I read it, I can feel it, I can see it. I'm not sure I can do it anymore. I'm not sure that particular channel is open, but I'm trying to write to Walt to see how it turns out, because he's so seductive that you're afraid you're starting to become, and you're trying to be like him, and that's not I can't do that, but he's so overwhelmingly powerful that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to carry this forward very much further. I don't know, I hope I can. Am I supposed to be here?
Yeah, no weather.
For you, but I'm sorry, I'm just not conscious of that.
Do we have some questions? There's some time left. I have more, but I want to give the audience a chance to ask anything of Rob. Any questions out there? Don't be shy. Oh, go for it.
I'm curious about how Brian Eno reacted. He contributed to the soundtrack of Heat and Sunlight, and that was a big part of why that movie is so powerful. But was he involved with, I mean, did he see the movie and did he have any opinion about?
So Penny's referring to My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, which was put together by David Byrne and Brian Eno. And when I heard it, I knew I had to have it for Heat and Sunlight. And I went to them, and they were totally kind and open, and they gave it to me. I think David Byrne was, they every year the other would take charge of the business. I think it was more David Byrne that gave it to me, but I was totally grateful to them and always will be for that music, because to me, I think you're right, Penny, I think it makes the movie. And I don't know, Brian even never saw it. No idea whether he liked it or not, but it doesn't matter. I think, by the way, there's a new movie you guys may know about. I think it's called Eno, and it premiered at Sundance this year, and it's an AI movie. And so every time you look at it, it selects different elements in a lot of the oeuvre, so to speak, the work that Brian allowed the filmmaker to have. And it's such an interesting, I haven't seen it yet, but I believe that that's where it's going anyway. I mean, we're going to the humans and the non-humans and these boogeymen that come out of the night through the AI. We're all going to collaborate together, hopefully to our mutual advantage. But we are now, Jean and I are now making multi-art, wherein I take the first piece that we've done, we took 4 of my, I'm not taking anything from the internet. I'm not a bandit, and I'm not going in and seeing what the internet can give me. I'm putting my own work back into this whirlpool to see what happens. And after was it 68 or 48?
48.
48 tries, we came up with something that was, and it was based only on my own paintings. And it became a 7 foot by 3.5 foot light box called Gaza. Because when I saw it, I said, wow, this is Gaza. So I'm not sure we started with Brian, but I guess I took care of that. So, any other questions?
There was a moment in the film, I just wanted to make sure I understood it, where towards the end, John's talking about the final result of the song, it all coming together. And he was disappointed that somehow it didn't quite achieve what he thought. I thought that was such an amazing moment to capture the way he expressed that.
Well, talk
Did
about
I understand that properly?
Yes, but wasn't it before then he put his voice in?
That's right. It was before
Yeah, so,
the voice.
but
So the voice was never planned as part of the music, the piece?
I just think he has that quality of non-congratulations. Prove it to yourself, John. Prove it to yourself, Rob. That's what we have to do. The rest of it is all you. It's all everything that you do in our particular productions. But for us, it's just nothing can be right until the last drop of sweat.
So it's just so lovely to have that
Yes.
artist confess that to the camera,
Yes.
to you, to express that. It's really beautiful.
How long did you know John before he asked you to make the film?
I didn't know him at all. This was the producer. I'm sorry, I forgot his name now. He's a Irish producer. He's in the movie. You saw him there, explaining how he had set it up and whatever. So he contacted me, and right out of the blue, and I was what an opportunity. I had just recently been in Moscow too with us. There was a group of American artists that were invited to go over to meet people like Ellen Klimov and Alexei German and all these great Russian directors and all that stuff. And so I was invited to go on that. So to me, to be able to go back again and see what we could do was just plus. But I can't say that I was really a fan of Velvet Underground. I wasn't a fan of John, but I became a fan of John. Now, I used to think that his voice was harsh. I don't think so anymore. I think it has a tone that's it's like hitting some kind of steel, the great mallet that it just resounds. Anyway. Anything else?
You've made at least I know of one other documentary that you've directed. What Happens Here, I think it's called, or What's Happening Here?
What happened here? Yes, it's a movie we shot mostly in Ukraine about Trotsky and about the tragedy of his life and the tragedy of the revolution. And because I was a big fan of Trotsky's writing, and I was in an organization called Cine Manifest, which was a group of filmmakers here in the the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. We banded together to do films from a kind of a quasi-socialist, worker-oriented bunch of films, and I read My Life. I read Trotsky's book, My Life. So different than the demagogue that we, in some ways, he became in part. I mean, he ended up having to order the slaughter of hundreds of people, even of his own people. But he had the heart of a poet, and he would, at the beginning, I found where his farmhouse was near this little town in Ukraine. And he would go up into his attic at night and cry because of the way his father treated the hired help. I guess were they still serfs? Well, it was close to it. They either were or just on the other side of that. And his understanding of art was not dialectical materialism. It was what comes out of here, and how and why it does, and can it be used for the good? Can you accept the artist? Now, like Picasso, he was part of he was being used, or he was working with the Communist Party, but in the end they couldn't sustain the prolixity and the proliferation of his work, because it couldn't be read in simple enough political terms to be used by the party. This is a terrible tragedy, and it's one of the things that Trotsky tried to fight against, and fight for the true artist that is also part of the true social dream. A big ask, that's for sure, even now. Well, for sure now. Look what we're looking at. My God, what we're looking at is, if we don't get on it, I believe we're just may be the last gasp of our democracy. If we don't get on it, if we don't make sure the son of a bitch and all his pricks get in again.
Do you remember movies or art that's made you cry over the years? You mentioned, you know, men crying over art or kind of creative things. Is that something that, can you recall that?
Well, that's really good. That's a great question. The first film I ever saw that meant anything to me, I didn't cry. And that was Shadows, Cassavetes' first film. Because I felt, oh, he sees us. Ah, that's right. I see that. That's how we are. But crying, oh God. I'm sure it must have been one of the Russians, one of the
Come and see.
Hmm?
Come and see.
Come and see. Boy, well, if I didn't cry, I should have. Yeah. Come and see. One of the great, and I'm sure most of you know it, but that was the closest I ever came to seeing tragedy outside of the Greeks, outside of Shakespeare.
And do you have any projects coming up of your own, whether, you know, writing, producing, directing that?
Yeah, I've got two other feature films I want to make, but I need Willem Dafoe and Marisa. You know who Marisa is? Marisa is a fado singer, a wonderful fado singer from. I saw her at the jazz collective. What do they call it? Jazz Center. And it's about a homeless guy who keeps a bent trumpet in his bag until he sees her again through a window in the Jazz Center and realizes he wants to come back. But he's lost his lip, he's drug addicted, he's gone, there's no chance, but he has to try. So that's one thing. And then the other one is a film that John's would love to have used John's younger brother in. It's about a Russian sailor on a ship that puts into Lagos Harbor in Nigeria, and there's a crew member that is suddenly in deep trouble. We don't know exactly what it is, but he's got to get off that ship, and it has to do with Putin. It has to do with familial relationships with him and his family, and what's going to happen to him because of some particular political things. Jumps off into the water, swims to God knows what, Lagos Harbor. I've been to Lagos Harbor. But he comes up manages to get to shore, and there's a bunch of little restaurants and waterfront bars, and he goes into one bar where they're doing, this Fela Kuti kind of thing, the revival of that type of music in Nigeria, and he meets a beautiful Yoruba girl, and now they escape across Nigeria, heading for the desert. That's all I can say. So,
wow. We can end on that note, Rob. Thank you for being here. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Brian Eno behind the scenes. And have a lovely evening. We'll see you next time.